Sometimes growth doesn't feel exciting. Sometimes growth feels like losing people, losing comfort, losing the version of life that once felt safe. And psychology shows something most people don't realize. Growth often feels lonely, not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are becoming someone different. And the hardest part about becoming different is realizing not everyone will understand the version of you that you are becoming. Sometimes people don't stop caring because they want to. Sometimes they stop caring because they're tired of feeling hurt in ways they can't explain. And the strange thing is, most emotional change doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens slowly. So slowly that you don't even notice it at first. Sometimes people don't stop caring because they changed. They stopped caring because they realized they were the only one who cared. Maybe there was a time when you cared about everything. You replied fast. You tried to fix problems. You tried to explain how you felt. You tried to understand people even when they didn't understand you. And you didn't do that because you were weak. You did that because you cared. Because you believed things could get better. Because you believed people would eventually understand you. But then something started changing. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just small things. You started replying a little slower. You stopped explaining yourself as much. You stopped reacting to things that used to hurt you. Not because they stopped hurting, but because you got tired of showing it. Tired of repeating yourself. Tired of hoping people would notice. Tired of feeling like you were the only one trying to hold something together. The opposite of love is not hate. It's emotional exhaustion. Psychology has a simple explanation for this. The human brain is built to protect you from pain. And when emotional effort keeps leading to disappointment, your brain starts learning something dangerous but effective. It learns that caring less means hurting less. And this doesn't feel like a decision. It feels like survival. Because when you care deeply, you don't just experience happiness deeply. You experience everything deeply. Rejection feels heavier. Disappointment feels louder. Silence feels colder. Distance feels more personal. And after enough of those moments, your brain slowly turns the volume down. Not all at once, just little by little. Here's the part nobody talks about. Emotional detachment doesn't start when you stop caring. It starts when you stop feeling safe enough to care. Maybe you didn't notice it the first time you stayed quiet instead of explaining. Maybe you didn't notice it the first time you decided not to argue back. Maybe you didn't notice it the first time you thought, maybe it's not worth the energy anymore. Imagine this. You send a message. You wait. You see they're online. They don't reply. You tell yourself it's okay. But something inside you shifts. And moments like that don't break you instantly. They reshape you slowly. And that's how emotional detachment usually begins. Not with anger, not with hate, but with emotional exhaustion. People don't become cold. They become careful. People think emotional detachment means someone became cold. But most of the time it means they were warm for too long in places that never warmed back. It means they gave effort in spaces where effort wasn't returned. It means they stayed emotionally open in environments that slowly taught them to close. There's a moment, not dramatic, not obvious, but real. It's the moment when someone stops fighting to be understood. Not because they don't care anymore, but because they don't believe it will change anything. And when hope fades, effort usually fades with it. You might see it in yourself. Maybe you stopped explaining how you feel. Maybe you stopped expecting people to notice when you're struggling. Maybe you stopped reacting when something hurt you. Maybe you started telling yourself it's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm used to it, even when a part of you still cared. And from the outside, it might look like you're stronger now, more calm, more controlled, more independent. But sometimes it just means you learned how to hide pain better. Emotional detachment is often just disappointment that stayed too long. There is nothing weak about emotional change. Sometimes emotional distance is healing. Sometimes it's self-protection. Sometimes it's the first step toward becoming stronger. But sometimes it's what happens when someone cared too deeply for too long without feeling safe enough to keep doing it. And the scariest part about emotional change is this. Most people can't tell you when it started. There was no single moment, no dramatic goodbye, no obvious breaking point, just small emotional disappointments over time. One ignored message. One conversation that never happened. One moment where you felt invisible. One time you needed support and didn't get it. And those moments add up until one day you realize you don't react the way you used to, and you don't even know when that part of you faded. Sometimes people stop caring, not because of what happened, but because of what never happened. Some people stop caring because they are healing. Some people stop caring because they are protecting their peace. And some people stop caring because they are emotionally exhausted, because they gave too much for too long without feeling safe enough to keep giving. And most of the time, no one notices when it starts happening. Not friends, not family, not the people around them, and sometimes not even them. Growth changes your standards. Growth changes your boundaries. Growth changes what you accept emotionally. And when your standards change, your environment sometimes needs time to catch up, and sometimes it never does. And that's one of the hidden psychological costs of becoming better. Not everyone grows at the same speed. Not everyone wants to grow, and not everyone is ready to grow. And sometimes growth naturally creates distance between you and people who are still in a different stage of life. And that doesn't make you better than them, and it doesn't make them worse than you. It just means you are moving in different emotional directions. Growth is not just about gaining new things. Sometimes growth is about outgrowing environments, mindsets, and emotional patterns that once felt normal. And outgrowing something almost always creates space. And space can feel like loneliness if you don't understand what is happening. But sometimes space is where your new identity begins to form. Sometimes space is where clarity grows. Sometimes space is where confidence becomes internal instead of external. Growth can feel lonely, but loneliness during growth is often temporary. It's the space between who you were and who you are becoming. And most people don't talk about this part of self-improvement because it's not glamorous, it's not motivational, it's not aesthetic, but it's real. And if you feel lonely while growing, it doesn't always mean you're losing connection. Sometimes it means you're building a stronger connection with who you really are becoming. If this video made you feel understood, you're not alone. You can like the video to help it reach someone who needs it, and subscribe if you want more videos like this.